Desert Radio Podcasts.
We were speaking about the COSAFA Awards recently, and of course that was quite sad for Namibians, seeing that Peter Shalulile was nominated for the Best Men's Player of the Year award. We had Lloyd Kadhapua in the Men's Goalkeeper of the Year award. Preliminary, we had Colin Benjamin for Coach of the Year as well, but unfortunately none of them made it there. To just unpack this a bit for us, we are joined by a sports veteran commentator, that's Isak Amata on the line this morning. Isak, to you, a very good morning. Thank you so much for making some time for us. Unfortunate scenes in Johannesburg yesterday, isn't it?
Colin, I wouldn't really say, first of all, good morning. Good morning to you and to your listeners and to everybody behind the scenes. I wouldn't say it's unfortunate. If you look at, we need to contextualize why certain things happen the way they do. And in this case, look, the fact that you are nominated, you are among the big hands. That should, for Namibia, should be an accolade that you must put or a feather in your cap, rather, as far as I'm concerned. When you compare what we have achieved as a country in football and what the winning individuals and their country has accomplished in the same period of time, I think you should be happy that you were just nominated. Let's look at, for instance, Peter Shalulile. He hasn't been scoring goals. He hasn't scored a goal in AFCON. He hasn't scored for people calculated 900 minutes and so on. He only scored recently the 2 goals against TS after a long while. And other people have been scoring consistently, and they have won national trophies for their country. You are up against, say, Percy Tau. Percy Tau plays for one of the top leagues in Africa, in Al Ahly, one of the top clubs, consistent campaigner in the African Champions League, Club Champions League. So what Tau has won with his club and with his and with the country, they won third place in AFCON. We just went to the next group. So all of those things have to be put in context for me. You look at Lloyd Kadhapua, he was in the same national team as Peter Shalulile. He plays for Chipa. Chipa hasn't been doing very well lately. He went up against Ronald Williams, who has won the league with Sundowns, who has won the Africa Club Championship with Sundowns, who for Bafana has played very well, gotten a third place, goalkeeper of the tournament in Ivory Coast. So for me, honestly, and when you look at Colin Benjamin up against Mokoena, the Sundowns coach, who has won the Africa Club Championship, who has produced 8 players for the national team, who has won the league in South Africa for so many times. So I think for us, it's an honor to have been on the podium. That we should be happy with. What it tells us is we should work hard so that we achieve as a country, as clubs, and as individuals, because that's the only point in time you get a gold medal on the podium.
Indeed, and just looking at the nominations themselves, you really gave us a brief breakdown on why these gentlemen have been where they are nominated in these particular categories. But do you think, just looking at Namibians other than the diaspora or here, that possibly for nominations we also could have been in other categories?
Look, maybe not. We have a 14 panel of judges. One of them is a Namibian, Jason Tauraisa from the Namibian Sun or the Network Media Group, formerly Namibia Media Holdings. You look at, you need to have a certain number of people in any category. Unfortunately, it's like selecting a national team. Maybe I'm taking you back to Colin Benjamin being under fire for bringing in who and taking out who. So it's the same with the panel of judges. You are restricted to a number of people per category. And Namibia made it. Who else would have made it as far as Namibians are concerned, who are in the diaspora? What is our diaspora, for instance, when you talk about Namibians in the diaspora? It's our players in Botswana, it's our players in South Africa. Do you compare the Botswana league? Is it better than the South African league? Maybe not. Money-wise, performance-wise, where did Botswana end in any international competition, whether it's World Cup qualifiers or AFCON qualifiers, which they didn't make in any other? Did their club go anywhere? Yes. Johannes played semi-finals or so in the Champions League, not semi-finals. They came out of the group with what is his name? Rudolf Wendel. Dynamo Friedrich was injured all this while. So you look at all of those things. Could they have maybe been? Maybe Rudolf, because they won the league last season. Maybe they could have been nominated. But in terms of the level of competitiveness of the Botswana Premier League, where do you put it? And maybe those were the considerations. Why somebody like Rudad was not considered. But now that you look at it, he did well for his country. He's one of the best midfielders in the Botswana Premier League. Maybe you could have been considered, but like I'm saying, you are restricted to X number of players per category, and maybe he would not surpass Shalulile. He's a Namibian. He would not surpass Shalulile, who in the previous season was leading goal scorer, and he made sure Sundowns won the league in the season of recognition. So one person per country per category maybe. That's why Rudad was not considered. In terms of, we don't have other goalkeepers outside. Woody Jacobs didn't do too well with his club as a coach in Botswana, and maybe therefore that's why he could not be considered. So it's maybe the issue of one country person per club or per category or so. So in that regard, maybe that's why we would not have had many more Namibians in the competition as finalists.
Before we let you go, Mr. Amata, just briefly, we spoke about, briefly about Mamelodi Sundowns, but I mean, if you look at the winners yesterday, Rulani Mokwena, Tapelo Maseko, most of them coming from, and I mean, Ronwen Williams as well, most of them coming from one team, and they have won, 4 to 5 championships in a row now. Is this the most dominant team?
Seven.
Is it 7?
It's 7.
7. That's a ridiculous number. Is this the most dominant team of this generation?
Very much. In total, they have won 15 trophies, league trophies over the seasons, and successively they have won 7 over the past 7 seasons. It has been the most, even at its weakest, they are struggling to beat their Sundowns. 2 days ago, Sundowns was playing Arrows. Sundowns had the men down. Arrows could not beat Sundowns. That's how dominant the team is. They rather opted for a draw. So this team has amassed the best players, foreign and local, and they're doling out huge amounts of money to get these players because they won that elusive CAF Champions League, which they have won once only, and they wanted it, but they fell out in the semi-finals again. I don't know why the Achilles heel is always a semi-final. Maybe it's the mentality of the coaches and the players that's where they get stuck. But it's really the most dominating team. It takes us back to the 70s and the early 80s when Kaizer Chiefs and the Orlando Pirates were the most dominant team. And money was the factor because these guys were getting the best amounts of money, and they were all opting, coming from many other provinces, coming to Gauteng to play for Pirates and Chiefs. Now, when you look at it in context, Kaizer Motaung is getting very old. He has put his sons in charge. Ivan Koza of Pirates is getting very old. Maybe he has taken his hands off the pedal or off the administration. And these guys are now worried about other things in their lives, maybe their businesses. They are 70 plus years. Motsepe, on the other hand, has put his son, who is much younger, and then he's very in control of Sundowns. And they probably have 15, 20 years to go before they also start to struggle like other Chiefs and Pirates. So if the founder, if the founder of something is no more hands-on, things are bound to go the way they do. They go haywire. And Sundowns might encounter that problem in 15 to 20 years from now, when the young man is a bit older, or what we don't wish for people to die, but that is inevitable. When people pass on to new lives, people start to struggle. I can tell you, I follow South African football from when I was a child, CJ. There were many teams that have fallen by the wayside, that are now in the lower leagues. You have Benoni United, you have Manning Rangers, you have Santos. All of these teams, they were led very well. But as soon as the owners took their hands off the steering, things went the other way, and some were relegated and so on. So Sundowns, the model that they have, I think, which is a mainly money model, they buy everybody. They have 50 players on their record, and they make sure all of these people are rotated and everybody's hungry for a first time. But that is what makes it competitive. But I'm saying one day this will all come to an end if there's no transformation of leaders, if people are not of the same mind, and if people are not really buying into the philosophy that Sundowns has had all these years. So unfortunately, Sundowns is going to be dominant for the next 15 years. They are going to lose some leagues along the way, but dominating, they are going to dominate. Pirates and Chiefs, who are the most loved South African teams, I think they're going to struggle for a bit until we go back to the 80s, 1985, CJ, if you know the story of the transformation of Pirates when they had two Pirates teams and people died for Pirates. And since then, Ivan Khoza came back as secretary, eventually as chairperson of the team. Things started going well, but he's getting old now, 70 plus years. So, and there's no talk of a successor in Pirates. They're not talking of succession. And when that man decides to retire, who is going to take off Pirates? Are we going to go back to the year of 85 when people were stabbed to death for the sake of Pirates? So, you asked me about the dominance of Sundowns, but I provided context in terms of why Sundowns will continue to dominate. It's because of how other teams are led, which is not really in terms of modern football leadership, corporate governance, which is now infiltrating football, which is the way to go because football is a money game. If you don't perform corporate governance practices, you are going to struggle to really be very good on the field of play.
Mr. Kamata, we thank you so much for making some time for us and adding that context, that rich context for us regarding what's happening in South African football, but also where our players fit in who've done exceptionally well last night. Unfortunately, not getting the gold medals there, but kudos to them nonetheless. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Desert Radio Podcasts.